Hey, wake up! Marin suddenly shook me awake, and as my eyes fluttered open, her anxious face came into view. Slowly, I sat up and asked her, "What's the matter, sweetie? Did you have a nightmare?" "No, Mom, please. We need to run away from Dad. Now!" Huh? That single word snapped me out of my grogginess. The shocking statement that followed left me stunned. My name is Heather. I'm a typical 35-year-old, working while raising my 7-year-old daughter, Marin. She's a delightful and precious child, though a bit quirky, even magical in some ways. "Mom, you forgot your umbrella!" Marin called out as I was about to leave the house. Huh? The day's forecast was partly sunny with clouds. It was a day with many clouds, but patches of blue sky could be seen here and there. "It's fine. There's only a 10% chance of rain today." "Mom, you're going to get soaked. I saw it in a dream. Please take an umbrella." Reluctantly, I took the umbrella she handed me and headed to work, only to encounter a sudden downpour just before I was about to head home. "No way," I muttered as I walked in, drenched, only to find Marin's equally wet umbrella in the stand. "Welcome back, Mom. See, I told you so." She greeted me proudly. Ever since she was little, Marin had this uncanny ability to predict the weather or guess what we were having for dinner. It wasn't exactly psychic, but it was certainly unusual. Because of this trait, she sometimes stood out when playing with friends, but it didn't seem to bother her at all. We, as a family, have always embraced it as part of her unique character. More concerning to me was my husband, Kevin. We met through a matchmaking agency. Back then, I was all about my career, a real go-getter without much experience in dating. Frustrated, my parents pushed me to sign up. Kevin was even more handsome than he is now, and a feminist. I fell for him instantly. Our relationship smoothly progressed to marriage, and now we've been married for 10 years. Lately, he's been coming home late, sometimes even coming back in the morning. Marin's older now, but she's still 7. The burden of managing housework, childcare, and my job without his help has been overwhelming. When asked, he'd say, "Times are tough, and I need to save as much as I can for our daughter. You never know what might happen, so I have to work hard." When he said it was for our daughter, I couldn't argue, so I found myself juggling work, household chores, and solo parenting every day. One day, Kevin came home early, looking troubled. Keeping Marin away, I asked, "What's wrong? Something happened?" "Actually, I want to quit my job." "What?" This was completely unexpected. After Marin went to bed, he explained that he was struggling with workplace relationships and no longer found his job fulfilling. "Please, I can't take it anymore. Once I feel better, I'll look for another job, and in the meantime, I'll take over the household chores." Honestly, I didn't want him to quit his job, but it would be pointless if he pushed himself to the point of breaking down. All right. Reluctantly, I agreed to his request. Soon, I took on more work, and he became the homemaker. His cooking and cleaning were more haphazard than when I did them, especially the meals. I'd come home around 9 p.m. after our daughter was already asleep to eat my husband's cooking. He made a lot of deep-fried food, and the seasoning was so strong that I needed water. The first time I tried it, I couldn't help but confront him about it. "What is this? Did you feed this to our daughter too?" No. I made sure hers was milder. I thought you'd prefer stronger flavor since you're tired." "Too much fried food. Not enough vegetables. The soup barely has any flavor." I'd be fine with the kids' meals, and I wish you'd balance the menu more. Despite my complaints, not much changed. If I try to leave any food, he'd say, "I'll eat it with her tomorrow." Oh, hell no. If she was supposed to eat it, I'd rather eat it myself. He apologized by serving desserts after meals, and thinking he was comforting me, he also began preparing an evening set with drinks and snacks. I wasn't much of a drinker or late-night eater, but I didn't want to disregard his efforts. Despite my reservations, I appreciated his homemade meals and effort as a homemaker. It was a relief not to handle the housework. After 6 months of being the main breadwinner, I finally had a day off with no plans. However, I felt oddly unwell all morning, experiencing lethargy and headaches. After every meal, I seemed to fall asleep very quickly. I might have been pushing myself too hard at work. Luckily, Kevin had taken Marin to the mall and promised to call if anything happened. I was grateful for his thoughtfulness, allowing me to rest. As I dozed off, I silently thanked my husband. "We're home!" I woke up to the sound of the front door opening and my husband's voice. I realized it was already evening. I hadn't eaten much and seemed to have slept since late morning. "Welcome back. Sorry I couldn't spend time with you today, sweetie. Did you have fun?" I asked Marin, noticing her clutching a palm-sized character mascot she probably got while out. She nodded quietly, looking down, which was unusual for her. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Kevin responded, "She might just be tired from walking all day. I'll get the bath ready for you so you can get to bed early, okay, Marin?" He gently placed his hand on Marin's shoulder, and she quietly went up to her room. After she was out of sight, I whispered to Kevin, "Hey, she seemed off. Did you scold her too harshly?" "No, I didn't do anything. I think she's just tired. By the way, about dinner?" I tensed up at his words, weary of his cooking. "About dinner, well, I'll cook tonight. I've rested all day and feel energized." "Oh, okay. I'll handle the drinks then. I even bought dessert as usual," he said, smiling as he lifted a bag with the logo of a famous cream puff shop showing through. Today, I'd make a low-calorie, nutritious meal. Later, the three of us ate dinner together. I took a bath with Marin and decided to sleep together for the first time in a while. Though she smiled when it was just us, I could tell she was anxious, and so I wanted to spend as much time together as possible. "Mom, listen," Marin said in our bedroom, her voice so soft I could barely hear her through the blanket. "What is it, sweetie?" "Don't drink tonight." Was this another one of her little premonitions? I nodded, acknowledging her serious expression, and she closed her eyes in relief. I decided to go to bed early, before Kevin could start preparing for our evening drinks. Surely he wouldn't wake me up for that. If he did try, I'd pretend to be asleep. With that thought, I closed my eyes. "Mom! Hey, wake up!" Marin shook me awake suddenly, and I realized I had indeed fallen asleep. Her anxious face filled my groggy vision as I checked the bedside clock. It was 2 a.m., and Kevin, who should have been sleeping next to me, was nowhere to be seen. Maybe he was in the bathroom. Slowly sitting up, I asked her, "What's wrong, sweetie? Did you have a nightmare?" "No, Mom, please, we need to run away from Dad. Now!" Huh? Her words jolted me awake. What did she just say? Trying to stay calm, I asked softly, "Why? Why would you say that?" "It's our chance with Dad not here. Because otherwise, you might get sick or have an accident." She blurted out, her words shocking me as tears started rolling down her cheeks. What's going on here? I pulled her into my lap, soothing her trembling back until she calmed down and began to speak. According to Marin, she returned from the restroom at the mall to find Kevin on the phone. I had always told her not to interrupt when someone was on the phone, so she quietly listened. Dad said it won't be long before she's gone. I'll make it look like an accident or illness. That way we can collect the insurance money and be together. Who was he talking to? I don't know. I thought it was you on the phone at first, but it wasn't. Dad was bad-mouthing you to the person and he told them he loved them. If this was true, Kevin was planning to get rid of me for good. And on top of that, he had another woman. Marin continued sobbing. He said he loved someone else, not you, Mom. I was so surprised, so I just called out, Dad? Then he immediately hung up the phone and asked, how long have you been there? Just now, I replied, and he smiled, saying, it's a secret from Mom, okay? If you don't tell, you'll have a cute and kind mom. She said this, hugging me with her eyes and nose red. But I want you, Mom. I don't need a cute and kind mom. I love you. Just you. She clung to me, crying loudly. At that moment, tears overflowed from the guilt of putting her through this and anger towards Kevin for his words. My daughter had bravely tried to protect me. How scared she must have been. How much courage it must have taken. Then I carried her down to the front door. The moment I noticed Kevin's favorite shoes were missing, I believed Marin's words, and any slight trust I had in my husband vanished. Marin mentioned that this wasn't the first time he had left late at night. She had seen him leave several times when going to the bathroom in the middle of the night. How had I never noticed before? If she had seen him multiple times, it must have been frequent. As doubts about my husband swirled, I noticed my daughter gripping my skirt tightly and realized now was not the time for that. I needed to respond to her courage. Thanks to skipping the drinks, I felt more alert and clear-headed than usual. I looked into my daughter's eyes intently. Marin, sweetie, if we run away from Dad now, we might never see him again. Will you still come with me? Yeah, I'm scared of Dad. I like being with you, Mom. I want to stay with you forever. That settled it. I made up my mind. Luckily, Marin was in the middle of her summer vacation. I told her to pack what she needed, and I quickly gathered our things. But when I checked the drawer for valuables, I was shocked. Sure enough, opening another drawer I rarely used confirmed my fears. Anger flared up within me, but escaping was our priority for now. We quickly left the house before dawn and took refuge at my parents' home. They were surprised to see us so early, but welcomed us warmly after I explained everything and showed them the evidence I had found. After the sun was well up, I sent a message to Kevin. Mom had an accident. I'm taking Marin and going back home for about a month to help out, so please take care of the house while we're away. Understood. Leave everything here to me. His casual acceptance was alarming. He probably relished the prospect of having the house to himself. For now, I'd play it cool, but I wouldn't let this go, not for my daughter's sake. Once we were at my parents', Marin, still with tear-streaked cheeks, fell asleep immediately. I made a crucial phone call. After a month at my parents', I decided it was time to return home. I kept my smartphone in my front pocket as I unlocked the door and entered the living room. Kevin, who had been fretting over his phone, tried to smile nonchalantly upon seeing me. Oh, you're back. Don't come back suddenly like that. You'll give me a scare. Hey, how about I make us some iced coffee with lots of milk and sugar? I was no longer the person to be deceived by such distractions. No thanks. Instead, I need you to sign something for me. As he started towards the kitchen, I confronted him with the divorce paper. Kevin sighed heavily after a glance at the document. Divorce, huh? Well, if that's really what you want, I'll go along with it. His calm acceptance infuriated me, but he continued, smiling. I'll agree to the divorce, but since you're the one who brought it up, you'll accommodate my wishes regarding the division of assets, right? What are you talking about? You should be the one paying. What? He looked dumbfounded, shaking his head in disbelief. Come on, I've supported you in my own way. And now you're just gonna serve me, a good husband, with divorce papers just like that? A good husband? One who skips work to cheat and tries to put his wife in danger? His stupefied expression made me snort. I pulled out a small bottle of pills from the rarely used drawer and showed it to him. The label read, "For stubborn insomnia, 1 pill for a sound sleep till morning." That's just for when I can't sleep. It's pretty obvious if you look, but none have been used since I left. I took pictures of everything before I left the house. Shall we compare? Don't make stuff up. Besides, do you have any proof that I was going to use that on you? I know all about the affair you've been having. What? I sat back down with the bottle in hand and pulled an envelope from my bag, spelling its contents in front of him. His face went ashen as he stared at the printed messages from his affair, proof of his infidelity and plans. I took a day off so I can meet you. Wait for me. I've quit my job so we can talk more. I love you. I've got something that'll make sure she won't wake up so I can see you during that time. We'll be together soon. Just wait for me, my princess. These messages detailed his lies about overtime and his plans to endanger my life, aligning with the unhealthy, high-salt, high-fat, and high-sugar meals he'd been feeding me. No wonder I felt ill. On top of that, he must have tampered with my drinks while I was in the bath. I rarely drank alcohol, so I didn't notice until I tried the same drink at my parents' house. The difference in taste shocked me and confirmed my suspicions. I started feeling strangely sluggish around the time I began eating your cooking. I'd fall asleep quickly, but never felt rested. Of course, not with alcohol and these pills, a dangerous combination. Kevin's face turned pale, his eyes darting around. Why do you even have that? You didn't snoop through my phone, did you? That's an invasion of privacy. Nope, she gave it to me herself. What? I flipped another envelope for him to see, his face going even paler as photos spilled out showing him cozy with a young woman. Right after returning to my parents, I believed Marin's words and hired a detective to follow Kevin. He had no idea I suspected anything. Within days of us leaving, he had his mistress over, living as if newlyweds. It was easy to uncover her identity and workplace. A few days ago, I negotiated with your mistress. I showed her the photos, and she agreed to provide evidence in my favor in exchange for a reduced settlement. She handed over her phone willingly. He alternated between looking at the phone and the photos, muttering to himself stuff like, "That's why she was saying that. She betrayed me." I tapped the divorce papers on the table. Now, to the main point. With all this evidence, I could go to the police, but I don't want to make my daughter's father a criminal. Then, sign the divorce papers. And you'll pay the settlement amount, alimony, and yes, you'll reimburse the savings you spent on your mistress, right? Wait, it was just a fling. We can't get a divorce. That's too... Whether it was a fling or not doesn't matter. You betrayed your family. You inflicted terrifying trauma on our daughter. You plotted to kill me. After all that, thinking you could be forgiven is just too much. As I spoke, Kevin collapsed to his knees. Just then, he grabbed my leg, glaring up at me with desperate eyes. It's your fault for not being a more agreeable wife. You think I'm just gonna let you go quietly? As he raised his fist, I clenched my jaw and glared back, pulling out my phone fully. I've been recording this conversation since I entered the house, just in case. What? His fist paused midair. As soon as his grip loosened, I quickly stood up and gathered the documents I had brought with me. The person on the other end of the line is my father and lawyer. They're waiting just around the corner, ready to come in at any moment. No, wait, it's not like that. I'm recording this conversation, so I'll use it as evidence. From now on, we'll communicate through our lawyers. I left my husband speechless and collapsed on the floor as I walked out of our house with my belongings. I got into the car where my father and the lawyer were waiting, sighed deeply, and called my mother, who was looking after Marin. When Marin answered the phone, she cheerfully called out to me. Mom, are you done talking with Dad? Yes, sweetie. I'm sorry, but after talking, it's clear we can't live with Dad anymore. There was silence on the other end. Guilt washed over me for taking her father away, even though I knew it was the right thing to do. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. It's just, well... It's okay, Mom. I understand. I'm here with you now. She reassured me with a gentle voice. Tears welled up as my father, sitting beside me, supported my shoulder. After that, we divorced. The apartment we lived in was sold as part of the settlement, and I moved back to my parents' house. Kevin, unemployed and unable to afford a lawyer, couldn't pay the settlement amount and ended up begging his parents for help. His parents were furious with him and paid us everything he owed as an apology. Kevin then tried to rely on his mistress, but she quickly dumped him. Unable to find a good job, he now struggles with long hours of part-time work, as I heard from his parents. Meanwhile, I started a new life with my parents and Marin. With the change, she stopped saying strange things and made good friends at our new school, enjoying her days. We might face various challenges in the future, but I vowed to raise Marin well and ensure her happiness, promising this to my empty ring finger.